This is the OCR GCSE 9-1 Maths paper 4 from the November 2017 series, and this paper is a calculator paper. Question number 1. Donald swims 3 lengths of a swimming pool in 93 seconds. So we've got 3 lengths of a swimming pool in 93 seconds. Part A, use this information to show that he could swim 100 lengths in under 55 minutes. So what we can do to begin with is do 100 divided by 3, and this is 33.3 etc. So what does this represent? Well, we have 33.3 etc. of the 3 lengths he swims. Now what we need to do is find out how long it will take him to swim 100 lengths. So what we have to do is the 93 multiplied by the 33.3 etc. And if I work this out, I get 3,100 seconds. So this is how long it takes to swim 100 lengths. Now we can convert this into minutes by dividing by 60. So if I do 3,100 divided by 60, we end up with 51.6 etc. minutes, and this is less than the 55 minutes. Hence, this statement is true. Part B, what assumption did you make in part A? Well, we assume that he swims in a straight line with no breaks. Part C, Donald tries to swim the 100 lengths in under 55 minutes. Suggest one reason why he might not achieve this. Well, he might get tired. And if he gets tired, it will take longer. Question number 2, part A. Simplify for the first part a to the 6 divided by a squared. Well, here, what we would have to do is recognize we are dividing when we have the same base, so we subtract the exponents. So a to the 6 divided by a squared is the same as a to the 6 subtract 4 and it turns out we get a squared. For the next part, b to the 5 all cubed. Well, we have a base to an exponent to another exponent, so in this case we would have to multiply the powers. So we would have b to the 5 multiplied by 3, leaving us with b to the 15. So we have b to the 15. Part B, factorise 6x subtract x squared. The highest common factor of 6x and x squared is x, so x would go on the outside. We then open our brackets. X multiplied by 6 gives 6x, x multiplied by negative x gives negative x squared. So 6x subtract x squared is the same as x multiplied by 6 subtract x. Question number 3. 4 points A, B, C and D are shown on the scale diagram below. That's what we see here, and we've got the scale 1 centimeter represents 5 meters. Part A, on the diagram we have to construct and mark the 2 points that are the same distance from A and B and 15 meters from C. Show all your construction lines. So let's think about how we can do this. Well, if it's the same distance from A and B, what we need to do is construct the perpendicular bisector of AB. So if we begin by doing that, we've got AB shown here, and what we need is the perpendicular bisector of that. So point a bit of compass on A, make sure that the radius is set to more than that of half the distance of AB, and then draw an arc like so. Point a bit at B, draw an arc like so. Point a bit at this intersection point, draw an arc, same thing over here, and then retain the same distance on this intersection point, draw a line, and draw another line. So the intersection of this point and this point will give us the perpendicular bisector. So that's our first step. Next step is to realise if it's 15 centimeters from C, we need to draw a circle with radius 3 from C. So with our ruler, find a radius of 3 centimeters, like so, and from the point C we would have to draw a circle. And in drawing our circle, like so, here is our circle. Might have to turn the page slightly, but there is our circle. So we need 2 points that are the same distance from A and B and 15 meters from C. So what we'll do is we'll extend this line like so. So the 2 points we require then would be this point and this point. These points are the same distance from A and B. Same with this one, same distance from here to here is the same distance from here to here. And these 2 points are always 15 meters away from C. So our 2 points, we're going to call this point and this point E1 and E2. These are my 2 points. Now for part B, the points A, B, C and D represent the 4 corners of Monty's garden. His garden is bounded by 4 straight fences, A to B, B to C, C to D and D to A. Monty wants to plant a tree in his garden at a place that satisfies the 2 conditions in part A. Explain why there is only one position where Monty can plant his tree. So, what we'll do to begin with is we'll join the points A to B, then the points B to C, then C to D, then D to A. What is this over here? This is his garden. And why is there only 1 point? Well, the only point is this E2 that's in the garden, E1 isn't in the garden. So that's why there's only one position he can plant his tree in. So let's write that down. So one of the points E1 isn't in his garden, as we see in this diagram. So this point E1 is not in the garden. Question number 4. The scatter diagram shows the results of 17 students in their French test and their German test. Both tests are out of 100. Part A, here are the results of another 4 students. We have to plot these results on the scatter diagram. Well, we've got French 21 and German 30. So 21, 30, that's over here. Then we've got 75, 78. So 75, 78. Well, 78 is along this horizontal line, and halfway between that we'd have the 75 as shown here. Then we've got 48, 46. So 48, 46, that is here. And then we've got 53, 61. So we've got 53, 61. That is over here. So we've plotted the other results. Part B, we have to describe the type and strength of the correlation shown in this diagram. Well, as French test scores increase, so does the German test. They almost are on a straight line, which means we have strong positive. Part C, work out the percentage of the students whose German result was higher than their French result. Well, if the German results are equal to the French results, then we would have to draw the line of y equals x, and anything above the line y equals x would indicate the students did better in German than in French. So let's draw the line y equals x. Now we need to count how many students did better in German than in French. That's everything above this line. So if we count those, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we've got 15 students who did better in German than in French. How many students do we have altogether? Well, we've got the 17 plus the 4, which is 21. We've got 21 students in total, which means our percentage is given by 15 over 21 multiplied by 100. And it turns out we would get 71.4%. So we have 71.4 etc. %. Question number 5, part A, complete this table for y equals x squared plus x subtract 4. Well, we've got different x values and we need to find their corresponding y values. We can do this using our calculator. If we go to the menu and then go to the table sub-menu, we can key in this function x squared plus x subtract 4. We are starting at minus 4. We are finishing at 3. We are going up in ones. When x is minus 4, y is equal to 8. When x is negative 3, y is 2. When x is negative 2, y is negative 2. When x is negative 1, y is negative 4. When x is 0, y is negative 4. When x is 1, y is negative 2. When x is 2, y is 2. When x is 3, y is 8. we now have to plot these points on this grid below to draw the graph of y equals x squared plus x subtract 4 between -4 and 3. So here is that graph. Now for part C we have to solve the equation x squared plus x subtract 4 equals 0. So if we take a look at our graph, we need to find out where x squared plus x subtract 4 equals 0. And it equals 0 here and here. So those values were, if we take a look, we've got -2.6 and 1.6. So we've got -2.6 or 1.6. Then, on the same grid, draw the graph of y equals -2x subtract 1 for -4 being less than or equal to x being less than 3. You may use this table if you wish. Well, we've got -4, 7. Let's also see what happens when x is 0 and what happens when x is 3. So when x is 0, y will equal -1. And when x is 3, we've got -6 subtract 1, which is -7. So we need to plot those points. So I've got -4, 7. That's here. Then I've got 0, -1. That's here. And then I've got 3, -7. That is over here. So now I need to join these points up with a straight line. Like so. So here is the graph of y equals -2x subtract 1. And then for part A we have to use our graphs to solve the equation x squared plus x subtract 4 equals -2x subtract 1. So that's where the graphs intersect. And they intersect here and here. We require the x values, so we've got -3.7 as one of our x values, and then the other x value is 0.8. So here are our solutions. Question number 6. Maria mixes white paint and red paint in the ratio 2:3. She makes a total of 15 litres of paint. How much more red paint does she need to add to the mixture so that the ratio of white paint to red paint becomes 1:5? So I've got my ratio of white to red being 2:3. I've got a total of 15 litres of paint. I've got 5 parts, which means each part will be worth 15 divided by 5, which is 3. So each part is worth 3. So for the total for white, I've got 2 times 3, which is 6. For red, I've got 3 times 3, which is 9. Then afterwards, we've got the ratio of white to red being 1:5. Now, the white remains the same as 6. So each part here is going to be worth 6. So for red, we have 5 lots of 6, which is 30. So how much more red paint do we need? Well, that will be 30 take away 9, which is 21 litres. Question number 7. The angle BAE is part of a regular 18-sided polygon. The angle CAD is part of a regular 10-sided polygon. The dashed line through A is a line of symmetry of both polygons. We have to work out the angle BAC. So, we've got this angle X shown here, and we've got this angle Y shown here. The difference between these is going to be the angle BAC. So what we can do is find out the interior angle of the 10-sided shape and the interior angle of the 18-sided shape. So the exterior 18-sided shape, that's going to equal 360 over 18, which is 20 degrees. So the interior angle of the 18-sided shape is 180 subtract 20, which is 160 degrees. So to work out the angle X, I need to do 160 divided by 2, which is 80, and that's because of symmetry. Similarly, the exterior angle of the 10-sided shape is 360 over 10, which is 36 degrees. The interior angle of the 10-sided shape is 180 subtract 36, which is 144 degrees. So to find out the angle Y, that's 144 over 2, which is 72 degrees. So the difference between these is the angle BAC. 80 subtract 72 is 8 degrees. Question number 8. Diners choose one starter and one main from the options given in the table below. Vegetarian dishes are indicated with a V. Part A, work out the fraction of all the meal combinations which have at least one vegetarian option. Well, what we need to do is find out all the different combinations we could have that include vegetarian. So we've got cheese salad and steak and chips. We've got cheese salad and fish and chips. We've got cheese salad, tomato and pizza, cheese salad and pork chops, cheese salad and nut cutlet. We also have the mozzarella stick and steak and chips, mozzarella stick, fish and chips, mozzarella stick, tomato pizza, mozzarella stick, pork chop, mozzarella stick and nut cutlet. We could also have the tomato pizza and the prawn cocktail, the tomato pizza we've got the Nutella cutlet and the prawn cocktail. So how many do we have over here? We have 12 combinations which include veg. How many combinations do we have in total? Well, we've got 3 starters and 5 mains, so 3 times by 5 equals 15, so we have 15 combinations in total. So for our fraction, we have the 12 out of the 15, which is equal to 4/5. Part B, diners also choose one of 6 dessert options. How many different 3-course meals combinations are available? Well, what we have to do here is the 3 starters multiplied by 5 mains multiplied by 6 desserts, and if I work out what this is, we have 90. So we have 90 combinations available. Question number 9. Here are the results of a survey of 437 people in a town. 62 males speak Spanish, 153 females do not speak Spanish, 280 people do not speak Spanish. Jeff says at least 2 out of every 5 females in the town can speak Spanish. Is he correct? Show clearly how you reach your decision. Well, for this we need to construct a two-way table, such as the one we see here. Now, we have 62 males who speak Spanish. So we have males Spanish 62. We now have 153 who are female and do not speak Spanish. We have 280 people who do not speak Spanish in total, and altogether we have 437 people in a town. So what we need to do is find out the missing values. So if I do 280 subtract 153, that's 127. So we've got 127 males who do not speak Spanish. If I do 62 plus 127, I get 189. So I've got 189 males altogether. If I do 437 take away 189, I get 248 females in total. And if I do 248 subtract 153, I get 95 females who study Spanish. If I do 62 plus 95, I get 157 in total who study Spanish. So therefore, we need to find out the number of females that study Spanish. So we've got 95 females out of a total of 248. And we need to find out if this equals the 2/5. So if I do 95 divided by 248, does this simplify to 2/5? Well, clearly it doesn't. So, is he correct? We can therefore say, oh, he's incorrect. Question number 10. The histogram summarizes a health score for a group of people. Part A, estimate the fraction of the group who had a score of 45 or more. Well, what we need to do first of all is find out the total. To find out the total, we need to multiply the frequency density by the class width. Here we've got 30 times 0.2, which is 6. So we have 6 here. Here we've got 10 times by 0.3, which is 3. Here we've got 10 times by 0.8, which is 8. Here we've got 20 times by 0.5, which is 10. And then we've got 40 times by 0.1, 30 times by 0.1 rather, which is 3. So how many do we have in total? Well, what we have in total is 6 plus 3 plus 8 plus 10 plus 3. If I work this out, I get 30. I've got 30 in total. Now we want to find out those who have a score of 45 or more. Well, 45 is going to be halfway in between 40 and 50. So 45 or more is here. And here, because I'm dissecting this particular rectangle in half, I'm going to have 4 for 45 to 50. So I've got 4 plus the 10 plus the 3, which is 17. So therefore for my fraction, who have 45 or more, is 17 over 30. Part B. What assumption did you make in answering part A? Well, we're assuming, when I halve this 8 to get the 4, I'm assuming that the distribution of people between 40 and 50 is spread evenly. So it's spread evenly between 40 and 50. Question number 11. Y is inversely proportional to x squared and y is 5 when x is 4. Find a formula linking x and y. Well, if y is inversely proportional to x squared, that means we have y equals some value k over x squared. And we know that when x is 4, y is 5. So I have 5 equals k over 4 squared. 16 times 5 is 80. So k equals 80. And knowing what k is, we can therefore conclude y equals 80 over x squared. Question number 12. A log is 18 meters long. Correct in the nearest meter. It is to be cut into fence posts which must be 80 centimeters long. Correct to the nearest 10 centimeters. What is the largest number of fence posts that can possibly be cut from this log? Well, before we do anything else, we need to find the upper and lower bound of the log size and the fence posts. So if I think about the log size, that's 10 meters correct to the nearest meter. So the lower bound is 17.5, and this is less than or equal to the length of the log, which is less than 18.5. And I've also got this fence post, so it's 80 centimeters long, correct to the nearest 10 centimeters. So what we can do is convert everything into a consistent unit of meters. So this 80 centimeters is 0.8 meters, and this 10 centimeters is 0.1 meters. So I've got here 0.75, which is less than or equal to f, which is less than 0.85. So to find out the largest number of fence posts, what I need is the upper bound, and I also need this lower bound. So I've got 18.5 divided by the 0.75. So if I work out what this is, I get 24.6, etc. So what's the largest number have 24 fences. Question number 13, part A. We have to solve x squared subtract 6x plus 15 equals 3x subtract 5. What we have to do is take everything over to one side and set the other side equal to 0. So I've got this x squared, then I've got negative 6x subtract 3x, which is negative 9x, and then I've got 15 plus 5, which is 20. So I've got x squared subtract 9x plus 20 equals 0. I can factorise this as a product of two brackets. I have x subtract 5 multiplied by x subtract 4, and this is equal to 0. So if x subtract 5 is equal to 0, that means x equals 5. Or if I have x subtract 4 equals 0, that means x equals 4. We now have to expand and simplify 2x subtract 1 multiplied by x plus 5 multiplied by 3x minus 2. Well, I've got this 2x minus 1. And I'm going to multiply this by x plus 5 times 3x subtract 2. Now I've got x times by 3x, which is 3x squared. Then I've got x times by minus 2 plus 5 times by 3x. So I've got minus 2x plus 15x, so that's 13x. Then I've got 5 times minus 2, which is minus 10. So let's expand this. I've got 2x times by 3x squared, which is 6x cubed. Then I've got 2x times by 13x, which is 26x squared. Then I've got 2x times by minus 10, so that's minus 20x. Then I've got minus 1 times 3x squared, so that's minus 3x squared. Then I've got minus 1 times 13x, so that's just minus 13x. Then I've got minus 1 times minus 10, which is plus 10. So, if I simplify all this, I've got 6x cubed. Now I've got 26x squared, subtract 3x squared, which is 23x squared. Then I've got minus 20x, subtract 13x, which is minus 33x. Then I have the plus 10 with it. So this is the result of the expansion. Question number 14. The diagram shows a cuboid ABCDEFGH. We have to calculate the angle BHF. Well, for this we'd have to use Pythagoras because we've got various different right angle triangles. Let's first of all find out what HF is. So, using Pythagoras, I've got 11 squared plus 6 squared equals HF squared. So I've got 121 plus 36, which is 157. So HF squared equals 157, which means HF equals 157 square rooted. So let's add this to the diagram. I've got this length, which is 157 square rooted. Now I've got this length, and what I can do is use trigonometry to work out this angle here. And I can do that because I've got the opposite and the adjacent. So the tan of the angle BHF is equal to the opposite 8 divided by 157 square rooted. So let's work this out. I've got 8 over the square root of 157, which is 0.638, etc. So with this, I can find out what BHF is equal to. So that's the inverse tangent of this, which is 32.5 etc. degrees. Question number 15. We have to show that 4 plus 2 root 5 over root 5 subtract 1 can be simplified to 3 root 5 plus 7 over 2. So we've got this 4 plus 2 root 5 over root 5 subtract 1, and what I'm going to do is multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the numerator. So I'll multiply this by root 5 plus 1 on both the numerator and the denominator. So let's work this out. I've got 4 times by root 5, which is 4 root 5, 4 times by 1, which is 4, 2 root 5 times by root 5, that's 10, 2 root 5 times 1, that's 2 root 5. On the bottom I've got root 5 times root 5, which is 5. We've got a difference of 2 squares, so I've got minus 1 times positive 1, which is minus 1. So let's simplify this. I've got 4 root 5 plus 2 root 5, that's 6 root 5, 4 plus 10, that's 14, and on the bottom I've got 5 subtract 1, which is 4. So if I simplify all this, I get 3 root 5 plus 7 over 2, which is what I wanted to show. Question number 16. Part A, we have to write x squared subtract 6x plus 20 in the form x minus a squared plus b. So half of the coefficient of x is negative 3. So I have x subtract 3 squared, and then I subtract the square of this 3, and then I add on this 20. So let's simplify. I've got x subtract 3 squared, and then I've got minus 9 plus 20, which is 11. So I've got x minus 3 all squared plus 11. For part B, we have to write down the turning point of the graph of y equals x squared subtract 6x plus 20. Well, I have to use my complete the square form. I've got the negative 3 here, so the opposite of that is 3, so the x coordinate of the turning point is 3, and the y coordinate will simply be 11. Question number 17. ABC and ACD are triangles, that's what we see here. For part A, we have to show that AC equals 13.0 centimeters, correct to 3 significant figures. So we've got 2 sides and an angle in between, so we need to use a cosine rule. So I've got AC squared equals 18 squared plus 14 squared, subtract 2 times 18 times 14 times the cosine of 46. So let's work this out. I've got 18 squared plus 14 squared, subtract 2 times 14 times 18 times by the cosine of 46, which is 169.89, etc. So to find out what AC is, I need to square root. So AC is 13.03, etc. Let's add that to the diagram. So I've got 13.0 centimeters to 3 significant figures. We now have to calculate BC. Before I calculate what BC is, I need to find out this missing angle here. So 180 subtract 78 subtract 81 is 21 degrees, and that's because angles in a triangle sum to 180. So now I've got a side, an angle opposite it, a side, an angle opposite it, so I can use a sine rule. So I've got BC over the sine of 78 equals 13.03 etc. over the sine of 21. So I need to find out what BC is. So BC will equal this 13.03 etc. over the sine of 21 multiplied by the sine of 78. And it turns out that BC equals 35.57 etc. centimeters. Question number 18. We have to solve this equation algebraically. Give your solutions correct to two decimal places. 3x squared plus 5x subtract 1 equals 0. Well, for this we have to use the quadratic formula. For me to use the quadratic formula, I'm going to state the values of a, b and c. I've got a, which is 3, b, which is 5, and c, which is -1. So let's use this to solve for x using the quadratic formula. Question 18. We have to solve this equation algebraically. Give your solutions correct to two decimal places. We have 3x squared plus 5x subtract 1 equals 0. Now to solve this I'm going to use a quadratic formula. Now in the quadratic formula, to solve ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, x is equal to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared subtract 4ac all over 2a. Now in our case, a is 3, b is 5 and c is -1. So we can substitute these into our quadratic formula. So we have x equals minus 5 plus minus the square root of 5 squared subtract 4 multiplied by 3 times by -1 all over 2 times by 3. So let's work this out. I've got -5 plus the square root of 5 squared times 4 times 3 times -1 over 2 times by 3. One solution I get is x equals 0.180 etc. For the other solution, I need to change this to a minus, and that leaves me with x equals minus 0.847 etc. So those are my solutions. To two decimal places I've got x equals 0.18 or x equals minus 1.47. These are to two decimal places.